Hello, glorious people. Grand risings to you, one and all. I hope this broadcast finds you wonderfully well, alive and kicking. How are you all? Grand risings to you all. First thing I see is it's downright miserable, isn't it? Is this the weather? Good morning to you all. Morning, fellow dissidents, says Carly. Love to hear that. How are you? Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton and guests. It is 9 a.m. British summertime. Thank you, Crone. I appreciate that. How are you all? Thank you, Crazy Bunny. Lovely to see you all today. How are you? Where are you watching from? What part of our great and glorious world are you watching me from? Hello, Merv. How are you? What's that? Mods and chat folk, like done, live chat set, let's go. Yes, good morning to you all, you beautiful people. What? Soul Sound, your stream not working. Hello, Armand, how are you? Thank you, Cavan, thank you. Heatless curls, I highly recommend it. I sometimes wrap my hair in socks when I go to bed. It's not very glamorous. Although I did bendy curlers last night, but it just means I keep the heat away from my hair, which I like. Hello, you're in Cornwall. Good morning, One View Cornwall. Good morning, Kath. Hello, Matt and Space Cat and Nicola. What's Nicola saying? Interested in what Mark Devlin thinks of the Oasis reunion? Well, let's find out, shall we? Good morning, Murray. Murray is in Perth, Australia. Thank you, Tara. I'm in a let me be a glamorous mood kind of mood today. Good morning, Denmark, Jutland, blessings from New Zealand. This is so wonderful. Morning, and Cornwall, watching from London. Paul Kavanagh, good morning to you, Paul. Merv is in Southend, Essex. Oh, Kath, is County Durham miserable and wet? How is it in Denmark and New Zealand and Australia? And Lynn, you're from Scotland, are you? Morning, Wirral. Monica's in the Wirral. South Yorkshire, says Munna. Oh, Derek, Glasgow. Good morning, all, says B. Good morning, all. B, I hope you got your t-shirt. Good morning, Coventry. How are you all? Really good to see you. Oh, we're in September. Can you actually believe it? I can't believe we have arrived here. How did this happen? Where did the rest of the year go? Right. Well, we've got a busy show, of course. Just want to say good morning to you all, of course, Grand Risings. Mr. Mensa, you were the very first person yesterday, although I can't see your message this morning, but you said, good morning, Sonia, mods and chat. Hello, Mr. Mensa. I hope you're well. People, I want you to think today, and please let me know in the live chat or on X or other social medias, because I'll check on them. Why are you happy to be alive today? Like right now, like in this time and age. And I'm not necessarily talking about the wonderful family or the wonderful loved ones you have, or you being with the love of your life. I'm talking about what is it that sets this age apart from other ages? Now, the reason I'm happy to be alive today is because of the advances in technology. Because I remember a time before the internet, and I have to say, I love the internet. No wonder they want to shut it down as much as humanly possible. The fact that I can get almost any information I require at the sort of click of a finger, essentially, whether that is a recipe or how to properly prime a wall for decorating. That's a wonderful thing. I love that. And I love the advancement of emails as well. Remember, we always had snail mail before, didn't we? I love all that technology. And this is not necessarily going to make me popular, but I'm an Apple fan, big Apple fan. And I love the way that everything can sync up, that I can do an airdrop from one device to another. Those are the things that I love about being alive today. What say you, people, in the comments? What do you love about being alive in this day and age? Sylvia says, I'm happy to have experienced the birth of Bitcoin. Oh, new journalism makes Simon happy. We love that too. Healing the Silence is happy to be alive because I've been able to see the world without having to travel when I've not been able to do so physically. Yeah, that's true. I can literally walk along a mountain cliff in China and see what it looks like without actually being there. That's phenomenal, right? Cavan is happy, So my mirror has a reflection. Morning all. Me too, Sonia, says Sasha. Thank you, Anne. Oh, Anne, that's a very nice compliment. Thank you, darling. I very much appreciate that. The way that I got to look like this was not such a wholesome affair, shall we say. I look somewhat bedraggled, but hey, thank you. I really do appreciate that very, very much. I do it all for you people. I do it all for you people. The opposite of you, nature. Diamond. No, Diamond, don't get me wrong. I love nature too. I absolutely love nature, but nature is there whatever the year or time in history, right? For the most part. But I get your point. You did receive your t-shirt, B. Excellent. Good to hear that. Wonderful. Christine loves hair straighteners and sat navs. Fair enough. Yes, Daniel. Mark will be joining us at 10 to 10. Morning to you, Cat. And what have we got? I would never have been able to start my own business with practically nothing without technology. It levels the playing field, says Sasha. And that is the reality. I talked about this before because it's so interesting. We used to have, obviously, a media that was all controlling and just, you know, kind of just only told us what they wanted to tell us. And they kind of decided what was going to be the items of the day. But with the advent of the internet and new technology and social media, be that X or Telegram or Instagram or whatever your chosen social media is, we are able to link up in a way that we haven't been able to before. And I love being able to see people launch careers online who haven't been able to get, you know, an opportunity in mainstream legacy media. So all of those things are absolutely wonderful. Shalini is happy to have woken up and met real proper friends these last 4 years, realized those that went before were not true friends. Oh, good point, D Hall. I love tech, but I avoid smart tech. Fair point. I mean, fair point. It's the gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. Oh, what? Is that where you are? All that fluff and stuff. I love the advances in hair products for curly hair, says Marlena. I hear you, sister, although my hair is not curly. My hair is generally straight as a board. And this is all fake. I mean, it's not fake hair, it's real hair, but, you know, it's all advances, curly, bendy rollers. Easy access to such a wide range of music instantly. Claire, couldn't agree with you more. Literally, isn't it wonderful when you, like, do you know those moments when you can only remember the lyrics and you can hear the tune but you can't remember the title or anything, and you can just pump in a few of the lyrics into the internet and it will bring you up the song. How wonderful is that? See, I think that we are all taught to be focused on the things that are going wrong and horrible. And that's not what I want to do around here. Yes, we must always highlight injustices. Absolutely. And we must draw attention to all the things that are going wrong and things that we can do something about. But we must also look at the things that make life worth living. Yes. Yeah, Randy, absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with any tool, gun tech. It is the hand that use the tool who have the responsibility how to use it. And I'm going to be talking more about that in a short while when it comes to knife crime. Yeah, CHB, not like the old days of waiting for your favorite track to play on the radio. Even more than that, can anybody, this is obviously for a certain age demographic. And I know we attract all ages on here. In fact, I discovered that we actually attract ages from ages 15 to 81, right? That's the ages that we've covered, right? According to our demographics. How wonderful is that? So anyway, but people of a certain age, they will remember Sunday nights in the UK when we were all waiting for number one to be announced, right? I think it was 7 o'clock at night when number one was announced. And we'd be there with our cassette tapes waiting to record our favorite tunes. So I mean, happy memories, right? Daniel, yeah, Kate is actually, I just see, yeah, Kate is on TNT, I believe. Yes, I think she's at the weekends, isn't she? Yes, CHB, the radio cassette recorders to record your favorite track when it played. Yeah, absolutely. Taping the top 40. MK Ultra remembers that. Oh, I remember doing that, says Crazy Bunny. And 15, yes, Kat. Yes. In fact, I've even received emails from parents and their children saying we watch you as a family, which is why I try to, keep it as kind of clean as possible in terms of like, you know, no profanity or anything apart from anything else. It messes with the YouTube algorithm. A trip down memory lane, indeed. Right, should we have a look at what our show is going to be about today? Well, let me see. First of all, who was this on Friday who asked me this question? Let me just see if I can find it. Somebody said to me, Amy, yes. Amy said, Sonia, do you ever read these comments from the live chat? I do. And Amy asked me to please get on ethical hacker Ryan Montgomery. Well, I will ask him. I will approach him. And John from Coventry wants HG Tudor on the show to talk about narcissists. I know HG. I've talked to him a few times on various shows that I've been on, but I will happily invite him back again. So today's show looks a bit like this. Mark Devlin will be joining us to talk about the dark side of the music industry, of which there is a great deal of darkness. And we'll have the fabulous Sandi Adams. She's an international speaker and researcher. And what that woman doesn't know about Agenda 21 2030 ain't worth knowing. She's absolutely terrific on the subject. So I very much look forward to Sandi joining us at 9:30 or around about then. And this week is the final report into Grenfell Tower. This followed the deaths of 72 people in June 2017 in a West London tower block. I mean, we'll be going into that in more details shortly, but really, really painful stuff. We'll also be looking at what's on in Parliament today and why nicotine isn't the problem we've been sold it is. Anybody see that massive explosion that took place near London's O2 Arena yesterday? That was mad, but not half as mad as the story behind it. Let me read you the headline, which actually for once actually sums up what has taken place. Enormous film set explosion that left terrified locals near London's O2 Arena fearing a bomb had gone off was caused by a convicted paedophile who blew up a BBC lorry in warped stunt while filming stark naked by the side of the Thames. It's one of those headlines where I was like, none of that just can't possibly be true. And it turns out it actually is. And so what we're dealing with, it was apparently a planned explosion on a film set next to the O2 Arena in East London, and it spread out of control. And it was actually set off by Jackie Judge. Jackie Judge stood naked as this explosion was triggered by using gunpowder and a detonation cord, which sent the roof of a police van 50 foot in the air at an open air yard in Newham. Judge was jailed for 4 years in 2016 for having sexual activity, as they describe it, with two 15-year-old girls. I'm not sure what exactly the sexual activity was, but don't describe it as having sexual activity with 15-year-old girls. 15-year-old girls cannot consent, right? So whatever it was abuse, right? Whatever it was. And he filmed this scene entirely naked for a production dubbed Project Dover, right? And it's really odd. He's 38 years old. He was sat at a typewriter surrounded by hundreds of newspapers on the floor before he flicked cigarettes at a police car, a police van, and a BBC World News branded lorry, which all exploded into a huge blaze. How is this allowed to happen? How is this allowed to happen? I have no idea how this is allowed to happen. The filming was first due to take place on August 24th, with Judge wearing a grotesque evil villain mask. He's a convicted paedophile. Who wants to work with this man wearing a grotesque evil villain mask? People are so weird nowadays, right? Where are people's morals? Where are people's morals? I don't understand what's going on. Yes, the couple in the video that recorded it was completely petrified. Well, apparently he's had some trouble with his crews because when he was originally going to be filming on the 24th, once he removed his grotesque mask, some of the crew recognised him and then refused to work with him. This is so sinister, Simon. Yes, be happy. Honestly, it's one of those things that just beggars belief, isn't it? It absolutely beggars belief. Good morning. Good morning, Paul. Paul the Hat is from a not so sunny Tyneside. Yeah, I think it's going to absolutely chuck down here, by the way. So yeah, when I read that, I was like, what? And I looked at the footage, I was like, this is absolutely mad. And it seems even more so mad because tomorrow, hundreds of people who lost loved ones or who escaped the burning Grenfell Tower council block in West London on 14th of June 2017, they will gather to hear the inquiry chair, Martin Morbick. He will privately share the delayed conclusions and recommendations about what took place at Grenfell Tower. He will address the people at the same West London hotel where more than 6 years ago, the inquiry heard harrowing and emotional family tributes to the 72 people who had died. On Wednesday morning, that report will become public. Grenfell is not over. And when I say that, what I mean is people regularly contact me absolutely petrified that they might be living in a tinderbox as their landlord, be that private or social housing, has failed to keep the property safe. I'm currently being informed about one which has problematic gas safety issues. That is one example, right? And what we'll see with Grenfell, mark my words, there will be much weeping and wailing, but it does not negate what happened. People died when they shouldn't have died. A cut price refurbishment contributed to this. Whether criminal charges will follow or not remains to be seen, but I'm taken back to 2 days after the fire when myself and a cameraman joined a protest outside the local town hall, which was Kensington and Chelsea, which was responsible for Grenfell Tower. People were in tremendous pain. I will never forget the sound of the weeping and the wailing. The anger was palpable. People rushed outside to citizens arrest the council leader. And it was really awful because in the air, there was the smell. You could just, first of all, Grenfell itself was just horrible. A black, hollowed shell, just horrible. There was still smoke coming from it. There was a smell of fire and sulfur all in the air. There was images of missing people and children literally sellotaped to trees and lampposts. It's just burnt into my memory. None of this should have happened. There is some confidence among many in the community that the report, expected to run to about 1,700 pages, will finally set out the truth about the serious failings and potential criminal acts and the emissions that led to 72 deaths. And Ed Daffan, who actually managed to escape from his 16th floor flat amid thick smoke, and he's a leading member of the Grenfell United Families Group. He said he expected the report to show everyone from national and local government to the builder, architects and fire testing houses failed catastrophically in their jobs, in their duty to keep us safe, to do their jobs properly, putting profit before people. He said no one in the public inquiry ever gave us the truth. They engaged in a carousel of blame pointing. For me, it's absolutely vital that I discover the truth of what happened, and I'm reasonably confident that we're going to get that when the report comes out. Well, I sincerely hope so. And I hope what follows after that are criminal charges. My concern is a lot of compensation money has been paid out. And the problem with compensation money is that it leads to NDAs, non-disclosures, which means that people then can't actually talk or pursue it in other ways. And I hope that excludes criminal action. I sincerely do. And the inquiry heard that the builders employed by the council landlord considered the block a poor cousin of sleeker neighbourhood buildings and drafted a plan to pull it down because it blights the area. I made a film called Grenfell, A Crime Against Humanity. And in it, I offer up the suggestion that they had increasingly gentrified the area to such a degree that people like David Cameron and Michael Gove had moved into the area, what was once quite a working class sort of area of London, had increasingly become very gentrified. Actually, the richest borough in England and Wales is Kensington and Chelsea. But it's odd because if you see my film, you'll see extreme wealth in one corner of the borough and extreme poverty in the other. And Grenfell was at the end of extreme poverty. And I would suggest that there was a great desire to pull down the 4 properties that look like Grenfell, but Grenfell was the only one that had been refurbished, interestingly. And it was the refurbishment that led to the problems with the cladding that led to the fire spreading. It's going to be interesting to see what more BitBIC's report will say. It's going to be released to the wider public 11 a.m. on Wednesday. And the inquiry has already warned about 250 people involved in the management, maintenance and refurbishment of the 24-storey block, which was wrapped in combustible cladding, that they faced criticism. Criticism isn't enough. They need to face jail. Right? There's a team of 180 police officers investigating possible charges of manslaughter, fraud and misconduct in public office. I should jolly well think so. Absolutely horrendous. Just horrendous. And I'm telling you, if that was a block full of politicians or incredibly wealthy people, that would never have happened. It really wouldn't have happened. It just wouldn't have happened. It's that simple, because that's the disparities we are dealing with in this world. Let me have a look at what's on in Parliament today. Yes, they returned from their holiday after hardly being in power for 5 minutes. They then went off on their summer holidays. Angela Rayner, she will be answering questions today. She's been serving as Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities since re-election in July 2024. She's been the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party since 2020. And I see they were all very keen to show our Ange partying, I think, in Ibiza on Thursday night, 4 a.m. in the morning, because they're really keen to set this tone, aren't they, of an almost cool Britannia 2.0. Anybody remember the original Cool Britannia? That was when Oasis joined Tony Blair. I don't think it was all of Oasis. I think it was just Noel and his wife, Meg, at the time, and they joined others for number 10 Downing Street sort of cocktail gathering. And now we have pretty similar thing again. Oasis have reformed and saying crappy things about Jeremy Corbyn, or at least one of them is. And yeah, it would appear that they are all going for Cool Britannia 2.0, right? These people will never be Cool Britannia, never. Anyway, Angela Rayner is answering questions today. And some of the questions she'll be answering include what steps she plans to take to help regenerate high streets. Well, that's going to be an interesting one, because the high streets were absolutely destroyed as a consequence of 2020. It's been problematic for a while, obviously, because there's loads of stuff. It's so easy to buy online, isn't it? That's part of the problem, obviously. So that's one of the questions. What steps is she taking to help tackle Islamophobia? Asks Afzal Khan, and he'll be asking her that. And I get very worried about all of these obias that we're supposed to have, because soon we won't be able to say a damn thing, right? And Alex Baker wants to know what steps her department is taking to help promote community cohesion. Well, so far, they're shaping up to be the most divisive government that we've had, possibly ever. I mean, just horrendous, some of their behaviour. What steps are her department taking to help improve standards of construction in new build homes? Now, she's the housing, right? She's housing and levelling up. I want to see more about building more houses. Absolutely. We know we have an absolute shortage after Margaret Thatcher started selling off the council housing, the social housing stock. They never replenished them. And that's part of the problem. And certainly that's part of the problem in terms of the infrastructure of the country. No doubt about it. I don't think anybody's in any doubt about that. So we need more. Divide and conquer. They promote division. Yeah. True, girl on fire. They were. High streets were already on a steady decline before 2020. Amazon saw to that. And the problem is it's so easy, isn't it? I'll give you one example. I wanted to get a new bed for the dog this weekend. And we've got a pet shop close by, a local pet shop that I use all the time. And I went there to buy bedding, and I wanted to get a same version of one we already had. And when I bought it about a year ago, it was about 35 quid. I went into the shop. The man's lovely, but he'd have to order it in specially. And he said it would cost 60 quid and it would take a week. And I said, I'm not sure about that. I went online. I got the same one for 20 quid and it came the next day. That's the problem. That's the problem we're dealing with, right? Thank you, Soul Sound. I appreciate that. Shortage in housing. Have you seen what they've built in West London? What have they built in West London, Mimi? I bet it's not. Is it social housing, though? Is it social housing? But there is a shortage of housing. I actually discovered yesterday, somebody sent me, oh my gosh, who was it who sent me? Please forgive me, I get so many, but somebody sent me a video of low key, which I was watching. He said only 1% of our land is used for housing. I have to check that. I started watching it, very interesting. I'm going to watch some more of it, I promise. Yes, it's true. More time needed. I wouldn't say most divisive government, as they seem to, everyone hating them from all sides. Right. It's parking charges too. Here we go again. Yes, exactly that. 100%. That is a major problem. There is plenty of housing. The council buy it all up and sit on it. 1.5 million new houses. I'm not sure about. See, don't forget, we get pumped out a lot of very bad, poor information online. And I mean, Brit Indian says about the plenty of housing, the council buy-on it sits. Now I know that that is a fact. That is the case. There is that, but there isn't enough housing. That there isn't actually enough housing because they haven't replenished the housing stock. I waited 7 years, just got our council house, says Jacqueline. But you got it. Good to hear it. Soul Sound prefers to buy from shops. Tell me, what is the housing like in your area? Because it's interesting what Brit Indian says. Tell me, councils have now merged with my housing association. I'm not happy about it, says Julie. Brit Indian said from a housing officer I used to know. Oh, well, okay. But tell me, what is the housing like in your area? And have you been on a housing list? And are you still on it? And how long have you been on it for? Let's find out. Good Ship Lollipop said, we've got 6 new houses being built right out my back gate. Interested to see who moves in. Mushroom Dreams, you haven't missed much. Well, although we've been talking about the Grenfell inquiry. I'm shortly going to be joined by the lovely Sandi Adams. We're going to drill down on 2030, right? What else do I want to talk about? Oh, this Wednesday. Remember Fiona Rose Diamond? She joined us the other week. Well, it's the United Not Divided rally this Wednesday, 4th of September, 12 p.m. Parliament Square in London. She says, whether you're in the UK or abroad, this message needs to be heard. Please share and support. This is on her X account at Covey Leaks. We will remain in Parliament Square to be seen and to be heard during the first Prime Minister's questions after summer recess. They want us divided and distracted, sleepwalked into a digitalised dystopian dictatorship. It is not about left versus right. It is not about black versus white. It is not about faith versus faith. It is about humanity versus tyranny. Violence is not the answer. We shall stand once again united, lawfully and peacefully against a tyrannical, selected, not elected government and the unelected bureaucrats who control them. Here, young lady. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly what we need more of, right? Because we're living through dire times and we need to come together. So that is this Wednesday. If you can make it, please do. Please do. And before we bring in our first guest, just want to say actually, it's not good morning. Good evening to you, Wade, from Australia. On Friday, Wade said that they had just filmed something and sent me the video, right? Wade said, this evening, whilst watching your live stream, I had an experience. I'm an Australian viewer. So with the time difference, the stream starts here at 6 p.m. Friday evening, which is generally when I'm cooking tea. So my routine is to usually watch the stream while I'm preparing the nightly meal for my father and I. I am his full-time carer. More power to your elbow, my love. Tonight, when I had finished tea, I went into the comments section and I was thinking about commenting. And Wade then talks about how couldn't think of what to comment on, but decided to go make a cup of coffee. And hopefully after that will come to mind and make a comment. Then Wade came back and talked about the Citizens Party of Australia, really pushing for something about a postal bank, about a people's bank. And then said, and I thought to myself, I wish I had something exciting to say. You don't need something exciting to say, darling, to comment. You just join the chat. Anyway, but Wade went back out. As soon as I got outside, I looked into the sky and saw a nice bright star, the first star of the night, which I always like to acknowledge by either making a prayer or a wish, or sometimes both. I was just about to start this ritual when a light just appeared out of nowhere next to this star and started moving across the sky. So as I was listening to you, my phone was already in my hand. So I went straight to the camera and started recording the light orb went behind a cloud. And I thought, please come back out from behind that cloud. Don't disappear where I can't see you. And a couple of seconds later, it appeared from behind the cloud on the opposite side and continued its flight path. And I saw the video and it's curious. And Wade, honestly, it looks like the two of them are in some kind of formation, as if one is observing the other, maybe filming the other. I don't know. I didn't recognize what kind of craft it is. Wade said I live very close to a major highway, so there is some background noise from trucks and cars. I couldn't hear any sounds from planes and choppers. And being near the capital city, I have multiple helicopters fly over daily. I saw no aviation lights, and it wasn't a satellite as it wasn't that high. Also, the camera on my phone picked it up a lot brighter than I could see with the naked eye, which I thought was strange. It is strange. I saw your images. I saw your video, Wade. Thank you for sharing it with us. And when we are up and running, these are exactly the kind of videos that I will be able to share with you en masse. Really weird. And talking about really weird, Paul also, good morning to you, Paul Carden, sent me a very bizarre video, which honestly, Paul, the problem is in these days, I don't even know if it's AI, because obviously, Paul said this is pretty strange. Close-up footage that gives the lie to the BBC media contrail nonsense that's put out. And it's a plane very close up with huge, massive chemical plumes behind it. Massive. But as I say, it's really difficult to know these days what is real and what isn't. And I'm confused about life in general. I am. But to help me be less confused, I'm going to welcome in my first guest. So let us bring her in, because she's lovely. She's proper lovely, she is. And hopefully she'll help me be far less confused about my life in general. Oh, no, my life in general is fine. It's just the world. I mean, AI, I think, is a problem, right? I think it is genuinely a problem, because I'm now struggling to know what is real and what is fake. And it concerns me, because all manner of things can obviously be made, can't they? And we're just waiting to ask her to unmute. Ask to unmute. Ask to unmute, start the camera, ask to start video. You know how it goes around here, peeps. It's live, isn't it? These things happen. Sandi, can you hear me, love? Ask to start video. Ask to start video. Oh, seem to be having some problems getting in with us at the moment. Ask to unmute. Ask to start video. I'm doing both of them. And Sandi doesn't appear to, oops, no, it's, there she is.
Hi. Yeah.
Praise the good Lord. Wonderful to have you with us. Sandi Adams, I need you here to make sense of the world. It's not adding up at the moment. Everybody, it is the rather wonderful Sandi Adams. She's a speaker. She's a writer. She's a campaigner. And I was saying earlier, Sandi, that honestly, what you don't know about 2030 ain't worth knowing, right? You've done serious deep dives on this absolute madness. And we talk about it around here. We have a segment which we call 2030, there's that year again, because, and so our viewers send in, you know, things they've spotted where, you know, in the news where it says, and this is, they're going to make sure this is done by 2030. But the thing about what Sandi has done is she's brought it all together. She understands, it makes sense to her, and she's about to help it make sense to a lot of us, because what's happened, because I come from legacy media, Sandi, a lot of people have followed me over, so they're not necessarily part of like alternative media. They don't necessarily know this sort of stuff, but they're hungry to know it, which is why you're absolutely the perfect person for it. So first of all, thank you and welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And it's great to be here. And I know we've got to pack quite a lot in, and I hope I don't overwhelm people, because really you know, there's so much that isn't known, because this is all being brought to us in a very deceitful way, so that we don't really know what's going on. And we have to understand what's going on in order to be able to mitigate it and to have some sort of pushback, because I'm just aware that not many people know about this. Now, as you know, I've been on this for over 17 years now, And it's been a very long-term agenda. And the people like Klaus Schwab, who people may or may not have heard of, if you don't know who he is, you need to know, because he's kind of behind this with the World Economic Forum. And really, it's trying to transition us into a new political system and economic system that we know nothing about. Man in the street has no idea what environmental and social governance means. This is being forced upon us right now. And it's been a process really for many, many years, but it was put into an acceleration program in 2019, because all the people behind this have been trying to push this new political and economic system for many, many years, going right back to the technocracy movement of the 1930s. But I'm not going to go there. It's too far back. But just to let you know, it's been a very, very long sort of program. It really accelerated just before the pandemic. And that was why the pandemic was all part of it, as you know, as many of us do. But some people don't know that in 2019, the World Economic Forum held a meeting in Geneva with Antonio Guterres of the United Nations and Klaus Schwab, and it was called the UN Forum Partnership. And it was signed in Geneva, and it was to accelerate the 17 goals of Agenda 2030, sorry. It was Agenda 21, it became 2030 in 2015, where they created the 17 goals to push us into the fourth industrial revolution. Now, this whole document was to bring in, it identified 6 areas of focus: financing 2030, climate change, health, and digital cooperation, which included gender equality, empowerment of women, and the whole DEI. If you don't know what DEI is, look it up. It's diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion. And this is all part of what's going on in our world. And it's a way of creating division in our world, in the same way that Chairman Mao did it in the Cultural Revolution between the rich and the poor. He made everybody feel like a victim, that capitalism was destroying your livelihood. In the same way, we now have all this division with DEI and climate change. It's dividing everyone, and it's creating all this nonsense that we're seeing. All the then you've got the migrant thing. Everything is division. And really, what they're trying to do is transition us over the next 10 years. If anybody needs to really get on top of this, read Klaus Schwab's Fourth Industrial Revolution, COVID-19, because this vector was used in when they signed this agreement in Geneva in 2019. 4 months later, that was in June 2019. 4 months later, they held Event 201, where they created a tabletop pandemic with Klaus Schwab there, Bill Gates, and it was, yes, this is how we'll do it. We will get everybody on board and we will bring in the fourth industrial revolution. And even Klaus Schwab said the pandemic provided the most perfect way of bringing this in. So what we've got now is nobody really understands what stakeholder capitalism is.
Right.
And stakeholder capitalism is the key. This is the transitioning that the next 10 years, the World Economic Forum are going to try and transition us into stakeholder capitalism, which is very different from shareholder capitalism, which is the free market economy we've had before. And they're pushing this. And this is the way they do it. They're using the whole 2030 thing to accelerate us. And Keir Starmer's been put in place as the puppet to do this very thing, to transition us into this totalitarian system. And it's very similar to the Chinese social credit system. And this is what we have to be aware of.
Well, what a brilliant introduction to it, a powerful one as well, but on the face of it, when you read it, it all looks so lovely, doesn't it? Right? So you've got end poverty, end hunger, ensure healthy lives, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. But you're absolutely right. It reduces us to a victimhood stage. That's very interesting. Now, in order to be able to rush through lots of things, but this isn't a rush. Like you say, this has been operating by stealth, and it was originally called Agenda 21 because they want it for 2000 originally, and then is that what happened?
Yes, they've tried this. They've tried. It was the agenda for the 21st century. That's what Agenda 21 was.
Right.
And they created the 8 millennium goals at that time, or
Oof.
just after. They created in I think it was in two, it was by, they wanted the 8 millennium goals done by 2000, and it didn't happen. So they failed basically for many years. I mean, Klaus Schwab's been trying to implement this fourth industrial revolution that he only really came out, in 2020 about the fourth industrial revolution. He's been trying to implement that for over 15 years, and it's failed. The 8 millennium goals failed. They then had to, in 2015, they turned it into, they had a big meeting in Rome where they launched the 17 goals to accelerate Agenda 2030, they called it. 2030 is just a goal. So they had the 8 millennium goals to be done by 2000. That failed. So in 2015, they turned it into Agenda 2030, and they created the 17 goals. Now this they sound all very fluffy and wonderful, and yes, it's all going to be good for us.
Honestly,
It's a
yes.
deception. It's a massive deception to create a vector to get the power from our ordinary free market economy, which is shareholder capitalism, where the people can buy shares and it benefits basically, everyone. It's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than stakeholder capitalism, which is really stakeholder capitalism. The West, we've had the free market capitalism where shareholders can profit. In the East, they have communism, where the state controls everything, and so everybody's quite oppressed in China. That whole thing in China where you had Chairman Mao, and people actually embrace their if you like, the Chinese communist social credit system. They embrace it because they like being perfect global citizens, and they've embraced it. They're trying to get the West to embrace this now, because they've tried to meld the free market capitalism, which is shareholder capitalism, with stakeholder communism, which is state communism. So they've got this stakeholder capitalism, which is really putting all the power in the hands of the rich elite and the corporations and the banks. So the banks hold all the power. And so this globalist hold over the power is creating an oligarchy that we're not part of. That we are the people being used, and they want us to embrace the robotics, which will put us all out of work, then give us UBI, which is a way of controlling us. They'll give us the UBI, which is universal basic income. It's been trialed in Wales. It's happening. And that is a way of more or less saying, right, you get your UBI because the robots are going to take over your jobs, which they will do. It's already happening. And we have to fight this. It won't happen if we fight it. And if we know about it, nobody knows about all this.
Well, that's the thing. That's always my thing, Sandi, is in order to be able to tackle anything, you have to first be absolutely aware that it exists.
Yeah.
And it's so easy because this obviously falls into the territory of, oh my God, those conspiracy theorists again and everything. But they keep, like, literally, it can't be in more plain sight than it currently is.
Absolutely.
So, Sandi, just to be absolutely clear, everything that we're experiencing, be that the whole kind of climate change, green energy narrative, central bank digital currencies, digital ID, this is all part of Agenda 2030, isn't it?
Yes, it's all part of this very, very and what they've done is they've implemented different things that people think are okay, like climate change. Oh, you're saving the planet. You're not. You're investing in their system of green, if you like, a green economy, which
commodifying nature.
Financialization of nature, the destruction of farming, all of this is encapsulated in everything to do with stakeholder communism, capitalism. It is actually stakeholder communism. And a friend of mine, if you really want to get the handle on this, a friend of mine has made an amazing film called Stakeholder Communism. And his name's Richard Jeffs. Do look at that on YouTube. He has, he's really impoverished himself making this film, and it really sets out exactly what the World Economic Forum have set to do. They've got the power from the G20 and from the Fortune 500, who all invested in this greenwashing, if you like, to make loads of money and to take the power into a rich oligarchy who want to take over our world. And it sounds like James Bond, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it sounds like then you have to wonder to a degree, Sandy, how much have we been primed for this through movies and theatre and TV, right? Because
Yeah,
obviously there's a lot of predictive programming that takes place, and we
yeah,
know that. And obviously, like during C19, the biggest transference of wealth in my lifetime. So that's obviously that whole C19 thing. And obviously we have to be careful because we're on YouTube
yeah.
and we all know how insane and totalitarian YouTube is about the mention of C19. But all of that was greatly aided, was a
Yeah,
greatly aided
absolutely.
2030, didn't
Yeah.
it?
And that really is the reason for it, for the whole rollout was to actually, whilst we were sleeping, all the infrastructure went in for the 15-minute cities, the ULEZ, the surveillance, everything, the biometrics in supermarkets, all of the infrastructure went in, and this is where we've been conned. We've been conned in so badly.
We're constantly conned because goal 5 is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. But these days, men can call themselves women. So we're constantly being conned, right? So, and like reduce inequality within and among countries. A lot of these things are incredibly vague, aren't they? They're fluffy titles as opposed, because any drilling down involves the kind of information that you're telling us right now, and that isn't the kind of information they want us to know. Who is involved in this? Are they is everybody like King Charles, all the prime ministers, every is it WEF primarily, or is it all of those different ones? Because we had Diane McCaddy with us on Friday. I don't know if you know Diane. She works for UK Column, but she's formerly, she was born in America, but we were talking there about, how a lot of this has all been put in place, right? It's already been put in place, and it all looks so nice and ready and able to protect us, but it's not going to protect us. And
Okay.
the question is, who is involved? And
Who's
like you say,
involved? Yeah.
well, Keir Starmer, you say, was put in place. So obviously, I mean, he was only 20% of the electorate voted for him for a start, but he was already put in that position to be voted in, wasn't he? So they're all part of it, aren't they?
Yeah, they're in a club and we're not in it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And
What's Carlin?
you
Yeah.
say who's involved? It's the EU, it's the UN, it's the Fortune 500, it's the G20. All of these came together quite a while ago and formed the alliance that is the World Economic Forum was put together in 1978, and all of these, and this is how far back it goes, and all of these plans were put in place, and you've got people like Xi Jinping and Putin. They agreed to this alliance for this new global system, where they would, it's a new global government, basically, the WEF. And people don't realize that the WEF have more power over our government than we do. It's not democratic. We're being transitioned undemocratically into something that we haven't agreed to. And this is the biggest problem. And yes, King Charles is massively involved in all of this. I'm doing so much because I'm writing a book. I'm doing so much digging into his. He was there at the Earth Summit. He was there the year before the Earth Summit, getting all the globalists together and the corporations together to form his Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum, which was really part of the Global Leaders Forum that has become Klaus Schwab's Global Leaders Forum. He's in it up to his neck. He owns all the seabeds around the UK coastline to put the offshore wind farms. He's going to be creating £900 million from that per year. And all of that is going into the Crown Estates. He said that he will gift some to the people. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. Will he? That's what his Privy Council have said, that he will be gifting some of this money. He's in it up to his neck and he's making fortunes. And, the royal families of this, the Arab, or the United Arab Emirates, and our British royal family are the richest people in the entire world. Trillions combined. I think it's something like 9 trillion or 10 trillion. So, these people want to hold the power.
Yeah.
And they
And
will.
they're about to get
Yeah.
even richer, right?
Yeah.
Sandy, what can we
Solutions.
do? Yes.
What can we do?
Yeah.
I tell you
What
what
can
we can
we
do.
do?
And Sonia, you're part of this. You're an amazing journalist who sticks
Yeah.
her neck out and tells the truth. And you're brilliant. And there's several, wonderful people who are doing this. We need to become strategic because alternative media is getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yep.
You only have to look at Twitter these days, and normal people are waking up and saying, well, what's going on, particularly since Starmer, is doing what he's doing. And suddenly freedom of speech, my goodness, what's happened to that? And what we have to do, and I'm joining up with Richard Jeffs. He's a really clever investigative journalist himself. He used to work for, I think, Panorama or something. But anyway, he came out of the mainstream, and he's made this film, Stakeholder Communism. And he blows the whistle on the whole gaff, really. And it links up with all the stuff that I've done. So I'm really quite passionate about this. And what he's trying to do, he's set up something called Yellow Forum, which he's trying to get journalists involved to try and break through this barrier and to unify, to try and he's getting people to take control of their local councils and create more awareness for initiatives to combat this. And I think this is the only way we'll do it. Is we're all in silos, we're all doing our own little thing. We've got to become strategic. Yes. And I think this could be the way forward to get some kind of unification of our efforts, because at the moment we're getting to people, and you're doing an amazing job. I'm definitely going to get on board with him and start broadcasting my own stuff about what I know. And I think this is really important to really get strategic about taking over the media, and because the mainstream is falling.
It's dying on its feet. I mean, it is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Seize the moment right now.
It is exactly that. What is that saying? And that is, don't wait until the iron is hot. Strike anyway, right? Yeah. And that is exactly what we need to do. Bit by bit, we're bringing people together around here, because it's not enough for me just to highlight things. I want to see a change. I want to be part of a positive change.
We have to do this. And he's quite. He's a good bloke, and he actually, bless him, I mean, he's lived in his van for years, just with his dog, making this film on his own. I've been involved also in a film with Mark Sharman, which I'm hoping will be coming out in September or October. And Mark Sharman did Safe and Effective. He came to me when I did the Great Net Zero debate in Glastonbury and said, would you help me make, with your information, could you help me make a documentary? I gave him everything I've done, and he's expanded on that. He interviewed Whitney Webb the other day, and Catherine Austin Fitz. I think at the moment there's a big push now with our side to get the truth out, and we have to do it, and we will do it. We will win this. I love
that energy.
Otherwise, it's the end of life as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love that energy. And I do think that we're in a different time. I feel things have changed. I think that 2020 had such a profound psychological and emotional impact on people. It's taken people a while to kind of shake that off, actually. I still talk to people now who still feel quite impacted by what took place. Yeah, King, it gets people down. Absolutely. I'm just reading the comments. Great comments here. Thank you, Peter. Very much appreciate that. Lots of love to Sandi in the comments here, which is great. But yes, Sandi, thank you so much for joining us. We do need a positive way forward, and you absolutely do offer that, which is fantastic. And I knew that you'd be able to give us a brilliant overview and a deeper dive on what was taken, and you've done it. Which is absolutely great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Me the opportunity. Bless you for all.
Wonderful. Whoop, whoop. I'm there. You've got people there already getting ready. I'm late, so I'm on catch up, says Val. Great job, Sandi, says Rick. Everybody's getting excited. The thing is that's the thing about truth, is that it's got its own wavelength, right? It hits you in a different way than lies do. So you know it when you hear it. And honestly, Sandi, talking to you, I just feel like all the hairs on my arms are all sticking up and everything. Feeling great. Really, really great. Thank you, Sandi, says Murph.
Thanks so much, Sonia.
Out of respect to Sandi's friend Mark Windows as well, says Monopods. Sandi is brilliant. Just followed Sandi, says Christine Smith. You're going to get a whole lot of Sandi is a treasure. Many thanks, Sandi. Loads of lovely words to you, and all of them. Every last one of them is damn true. Everybody, this is Sandi Adams. Isn't she fabulous? We love her. Thank you, Sandi. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you, and you. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
How brilliant is she? Like, how brilliant is she? We love her. We love her, 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 love her. Yes, lady, I love you, says Humphrey Fluffy. Yeah, that's the thing. You're absolutely soul sound. Exactly. Truth's like music in tune and rhythm. Yes, it is. It hits you. It has its own wavelength. You know it. When you hear it, you know it, right? Buzzacchino said, "It is said that in times of change, it is best to follow your flow, for in times of change, it is harder to lie to your heart." Hallelujah, brother. Love that. Great guest, says Christine. Isn't she brilliant? She was great. She was absolutely great. Before I bring in our next guest, let me just quickly just see if there's anything else that I wanted to comment on before we bring in our next guest, which is the lovely Mark Devlin. And let me just check down here. Gorgeous people. Oh yeah, another in our occasional series of He's a Nonce. He works with children, and who knows if he's going to jail. Step forward, Nick Baldock of Lancing College, not only sharing child abuse images, but also touching a male student. Nick Baldock taught history at Lancing College from 2017 to 2022, pleaded guilty to 9 charges at a short hearing in Crawley last week. I think that was on Thursday or Friday. So he is a former teacher at an exclusive public school. They say he faces a lengthy jail term, but we shall see. A district judge heard a 177-page report. It had been compiled on Baldock, who could be jailed for more than 5 years when he's sentenced at Lewes Crown Court next month. But we shall see. Baldock admitted to sharing these images of children using Telegram and WhatsApp. He also shared details of college pupils, including images, and downloaded outrageous images of children between 2021 and 2022. He downloaded categories A, B, and C. And of course, category A is the most extreme of child abuse imagery that you can get. And we shall see. But it just... Do you know, the reason I introduced this segment is because it actually astonishes me how many nonces are teaching children. And by the way, I noticed that Surrogacy Concern, which is a Twitter account, they had posted an image of a man with a certificate and a newborn baby in his arms. And it was from a surrogacy agency saying, "Another successful surrogacy journey made possible by," and I can't see the name of the surrogacy agency because it's been redacted. "We are overjoyed to celebrate this heartwarming moment with a proud single father from the USA." So what we've just completely forgotten about safeguarding concerns, and we can just send men and women traipsing over the world and just essentially purchasing children. We can do that now, can we? Because apparently it would appear so. Shocking. What on earth is happening to this world? That should not be allowed. That absolutely should not be allowed, that you can just go and acquire a child. That astonishes me. That really astonishes me. What kind of world is it? What do you people in the comments, by the way, think about surrogacy? I'd love to hear your comments on that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of surrogacy, especially having a single father traipsing from the USA to goodness knows where. This little baby looks possibly Asian. Goodness knows where. What is going on? That can't possibly be right. I mean, literally, have we just forgotten completely about child safeguarding? It's disgusting, says Julie. What's going on with this camera here? Is it going to want to let Mark in?
Hey,
Mark?
Sonia, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't see you for some reason.
I know. I'm really sorry. My camera is not working for some reason. If you can just give me a couple of minutes, I'll reboot the computer. I'm really sorry about that.
No, please don't. It's fine. It's live. These things happen all
exactly.
the time.
And it's Monday morning.
It is Monday morning. But we are out of Mercury retrograde. Right. Kat says, "I disagree with it. It's all done in secret. Renting your womb out is not a good thing," says Julie. Christine is not a fan. Synchronized Soul is excited that Mark is here. You are gold, Sonia. What's happening? What's happening where, my love? In England, in America? It is disgusting. Selling children is dark, says Catherine. Surrogacy is like selling a kidney, says Sylvie. I'm old enough to remember Kim Cotton. Oh, Mel's sent me an astonishing set of data. Mel's. I wonder if I can refer to it now while I'm just waiting, if I've got time while I'm waiting for Mark, because that was actually astonishing. Let me just see if I can find it. Right. Mel's, that blew my mind. So basically, Mel sent me 40 pages going back to 2009, thousands of people, a list of police, prison, and court personnel who have been charged or convicted of an offence. And these are serious offences, such as child sex offences, rape, sexual assault, stalking, sex on a train, sent child abuse images, charged with assault on wife. It just goes on. And there are thousands of these names. This is phenomenal work. It's been conducted by Height and Freeman. And my mind is just blown. And the thing is, Mel, so I started to work through it because I was like, this can't possibly be right. How many, like in one period alone for 2023, the amount of police officers who have been charged and suspended or jailed or given community service is, let me just count. We're waiting for Mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24 between 20th of January 2023 and 28th of June. 24. Just that short period. Like, these nonces are everywhere, aren't they? They're literally everywhere. And it is an awful state of affairs that we've reached. Mel, thank you for blowing my mind with that, because I think it's really important information. So anyway, I thought this can't possibly be all right. So I started to search it and started to research it. And they were all like, it's like, yeah, this is right. How can this be right? But it is right. And that is the reality, is that some people gravitate towards certain jobs because of their penchant and their behavior. There he is. There he is, the wonderful Mark Devlin. Good morning to you, Mark.
Morning, Sonia. Sorry about that. I've done live radio for years, so I know what it's like.
Oh, no, not a problem at all. We're just happy to have you with us. Everybody, it is DJ, author, researcher, you name it, Mark Devlin. Mark, I often find, we had a little chat yesterday, I often find that when I mention your name, people are like, ask him about this and ask him about that. And as you said to me, it's like, I know, I get it. But the fact is, I can only research so much. Absolutely, Mark. I relate to you so clearly. But we're going to drill down a little bit today on some of the very serious allegations that involve members of the music industry or people who are around the music industry. And I think that we should absolutely start with Sean Puffy Combs, because whoever saw his downfall? I mean, tell us your thoughts about Diddy. I think the video with Cassie, where he was beating up Cassie in the hotel, because a lot of people wouldn't believe it before then. Some people really need that kind of proof, don't they, before they can believe anything bad about their heroes.
Yeah, well, you say the downfall of Sean Combs, but I wonder if we're actually going to see that, because we're still waiting for anything to happen. There's been all kinds of allegations which have come out about him. And you and I have got a similar past. We used to be involved in the hip hop game. I was an R&B and hip hop DJ, and you were a writer on that scene. And I know you had some dealings with Puffy and Biggie and Bad Boy Records. I used to play all their records on the radio and in the clubs. And even back in the 90s, I remember hearing allegations about Puffy and stuff that he was into. And certainly all the artists that were signed to his Bad Boy Records label have had unfortunate endings. Some quite extreme ones in the case of Biggie, and Black Rob is now deceased, and so is Craig Mack. And many of the other artists that were signed to his label ended up broke. They turned to religion. That tells you something. They become bloody Christian ministers or Jewish rabbis or whatever. And then there's the more serious things, like, as you mentioned, Cassie, the singer, who is his partner, apparently romantic partner, although I hear his preferences actually lie elsewhere.
Yes.
And all these allegations about him having beaten her and really mistreated her and pimped her out to other men as well. This is really high level stuff. And then there's the freak-offs that we hear about, which are just coming out now. And again, I've been hearing about these for years because I've kept my ear to the ground. And it's only now that other people are getting to hear of all these allegations against him. So he's being described as the Jeffrey Epstein of hip hop, which is not a particularly flattering title.
Wow.
And he's apparently, reportedly, had these crazy parties at his mansions where he invites the rich and powerful politicians, business leaders, other celebrities, and they get up to Lord only knows, don't even want to think about the stuff that goes on there, but it gets filmed and it gets used as leverage in exactly the same way as Jeffrey Epstein was doing with all these famous people. And yet, even in spite of all these allegations, all these women have come forward and claim that he's mistreated her in this way and used them for trafficking and all this. Nothing's happened. And my biggest fear is that nothing is going to happen because he's high level protected. So if he continues to walk around a free man after these outrageous allegations against him, it will be all the proof we've ever needed that he's got protection from on high. And I'm not talking about the Most High.
I hear you. There's Little Rod, isn't there? Rodney Little Rod Jones. I think he has a lawsuit. He said he's now in hiding because Diddy is a monster. He's accused Diddy of assault. There's quite actually, it's quite a few, isn't there? Rod claimed that his career had come to a halt since filing the $30 million lawsuit against Diddy. But the thing is obviously, all of these are only allegations. We don't know the truth of it. But as Mark said, we've heard these rumors for a very long time, especially about these mansion parties. But the problem is, and we saw this, didn't we? Well, we saw it with Epstein, is it's not just about the person at the center, is it? It's about all of the people around who may be involved as well. So there's a lot of, in these situations, there's a lot of protection, isn't there? Because people are protecting themselves as well.
That's right. And a lot of people, I feel, are not paying much attention to the Sean P. Diddy Combs situation simply because they've had no interest in rap and hip hop. It's not a culture that has ever come across their radar. And
Right.
a lot of people are like, well, who is this guy anyway? So a lot of people just don't care. It's interesting that they do throw the odd one under the bus. So we saw that with R. Kelly. There was a similar situation with R. Kelly, who had very similar allegations leveled at him. He was supposedly running some sort of mind control, like sex harem with all these kept women. And again, I heard rumors about R. Kelly going back to the 1990s. And it got into the mainstream news that he married the singer Aaliyah when she was 15 and he was 30 odd. And that marriage was later annulled when her real age was discovered. And then there were all these rumors of tapes involving R. Kelly and various girls and all sorts of disgusting stuff going on. And I was hearing about that all through the 90s, into the 2000s. And for some reason, just a few years ago, his past caught up with him and R. Kelly got sent down for all that stuff. Yet Diddy hasn't. I suspect he's not going to. That's my prediction. If I'm any kind of sage or soothsayer, that's what I'm saying is going to happen there. And then you've got other individuals,
Right.
again involved in the hip hop game, who've got allegations against them. Tim Westwood. Should we talk about Tim Westwood?
We
And
should
also,
talk about Tim Westwood. Yeah.
and Africa Bambaataa.
Africa Bambaataa, I think, was one of the biggest shocks for many people. And whichever one you want to start with, Mark, the floor is yours.
I mean, what links all these characters is that they all come out of the hip hop and R&B game. And again, I know that people that aren't interested in that music might sigh and their eyes glaze over and they think, so what? But this is important stuff. You know, Tim Westwood is a hugely influential radio and club DJ.
Massive.
And I'll get it out of the way before anyone else mentions it. Yes, he used to be a personal hero of mine. He used to be someone I looked up to in the days when I was very naive and I knew no better. But he wielded incredible power within the UK hip hop scene. He was basically a gatekeeper. He was put into BBC Radio 1. He was on there for almost 20 years, 19 and a half years. And then for some reason, very quickly, he was got rid of. So it's almost as if something was about to break about him and they got rid of him in the wake of the Savile scandal, because the last thing the BBC needed was more scandal. So there's all kinds of allegations from women against Tim Westwood about how he sexually molested them when they were very young. Apparently, there's an investigation by the Metropolitan Police, which is ongoing. Apparently, there's a separate investigation by the BBC, which is ongoing. So that will go well then. The Met Police one has been running for 2.5 years at a cost of, it's in the millions.
Mm.
And yet he's still walking around a free man. He's still going to Nigeria regularly to play gigs out there in Lagos, and doing gigs in South London, and nothing seems to have changed in his world, you know? I don't know, maybe you can correct me, Sonia, but I thought when there's a police investigation against you and there are serious allegations, you're told not to leave the country. Is that right?
Well, I think that generally applies. I'm shocked to hear you say that he is leaving the country. That's a surprise to me because obviously you only have to look at any. I mean, these are serious allegations, right? These aren't just like, something petty or something. These are very serious sexual allegations about him of a certain nature. So I'm surprised that he's able to keep jaunting backwards and forwards. But the BBC inquiry, they say, is delayed because the police investigation is still ongoing. And I want to just come back to something you said, and that is, I don't think we can underestimate, for those of us who were there, who saw it, how powerful he actually was in the music industry at one stage. I worked with Max and Dave, who were essentially his opposition, hip hop opposition,
Yeah.
right? His rivals, and very much so. And on Westwood's word, Max and Dave would be denied access to certain artists and certain.
Also, DJ 279.
279. Big
279
up,
on Choice
Steve.
FM. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Same thing, right? And that is.
He used to complain to me about the same thing, about how Westwood was so powerful that he would block his access to certain artists just on his say so.
100%. And he also used to do it with me. Me and him had a big falling out. Not that we were ever friends, but I ran a record label called Go for the Juggler, and I had PLZ signed to it and DJ Pogo. And the thing is, I just didn't like the way he conducted himself, the way at the time he was at Capital Radio. And there was no doubt whatsoever that he was deciding who was going to get any airtime and who wasn't. And I fell foul of him. And so he kind of took it out on my artists, which is just weak stuff. And what I loathed about him was the kind of complete false impression of who he is. He's a vicar's son, a very middle class vicar's son. And he came over as if he'd been born and raised in the Bronx. And all of that kind of stuff was really off-putting to me. But the jury's still out. We still don't know. A lot of allegations, but there's more allegations. And what's interesting, Mark, is, as you say, this is all coming from hip hop. So then there's Drake. We've heard a lot about Drake, haven't we? He has been forced to deny allegations of having relationships with underage women, right? And he developed a really bizarre relationship with what was her name, who was in Stranger Things, who was very young.
Oh, Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown. Right. Talk to us about Drake and those allegations.
It's a very similar scenario to Diddy and what we're hearing about him. So reportedly, Drake has this mansion just outside Toronto, and he holds all kinds of crazy parties there. The video that you're talking about with Millie Bobby Brown involves Millie saying that Drake gives her boyfriend advice. So Drake advises her on her relationships. But when she made these comments, she was very young. I think she was like 14 or something. So that's a bit strange, isn't it? But I think the most damning thing about Drake is the allegations that have come from another rapper, Kendrick Lamar, who put out a song called Not Like Us, and he's absolutely savaging Drake. He's saying things like, talking about him making tracks in A minor, you prefer A minor, which is wordplay, like he likes minors. And he's making all kinds of allegations against him. So Kendrick Lamar seems to have some stuff on Drake. So if Kendrick is not some kind of actor playing a role himself and is genuine and sincere in what he's putting out, then he's really drawing attention to what Drake's been involved with all these years. I mean, to me, Drake is completely talentless as a so-called rapper. His songs are just drenched in auto-tune. Auto-tune makes so-called rappers and singers just sound like demons. It sounds like they're possessed by entities. It sounds like you've gone to hell when you listen to one of these things. He can't sing. He can't rap. He was actually an actor. He's literally an actor. Aubrey Graham, before he invented this persona, Drake, he was an actor. I think this is what happens with many of these assets. They start out as one thing, and then the controllers, the handlers behind them think, actually, no, we're going to switch it and we're going to insert him in this game. So you get actors that start out, then they become rappers. You get singers that start out, then they become comedians. So they're all assets. Westwood was an asset. He's a gatekeeper for the UK hip hop scene. Drake, I remember around about 2009, Young Money, Cash Money, when all that stuff started, people were saying, oh, Drake's the next big thing. Drake's going to be massive. And he was. It's like other forces were deciding that
Right,
Drake was going to be this massive star,
right.
despite the lack of talent. And there's a trend emerging here. So we've got allegations against Diddy, allegations against Drake, allegations against Tim Westwood, allegations against Africa Bambaataa, who's a founding father of the hip hop culture. So
Right.
he's one of these legendary names alongside Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash that any hip hop fan, any hip hop DJ is entrained to revere this guy, Bambaataa. He's like a demigod. But in 2016, a bunch of men, initially two men, and then others came forward, accusing Bambaataa of having sexually molested them when they were young, when they were minors. So there's a trend emerging here. It's
Wow.
almost as if the entire culture, the entire scene is just infested with this disgusting behavior.
Yeah, and the thing is that as you and I know, we love hip hop, but we've also studied it, right? It was almost like an academic subject in many respects, and I've talked to many people, and there are many people who always want to know wonder why, when it comes to Black culture, why is it the kind of ghetto Black culture has been made most famous, whereas obviously Black people have done all manner of other achievements, but why is it such a kind of, in many respects, certainly now, look how debased it is. It's absolutely horrendous. It's literally just, you just watch
Oh, it's
strippers,
disgusting.
just disgusting what they're
It's
doing now.
actually, it's pornography
It
on
is.
record. That's what it is.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Do you think, Mark, all of that is deliberate? Is that all part of the book, the playbook?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a slow drip process. So when hip hop culture first emerged, it was meaningful in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the lyrics in the records, the early records were documenting street life in New York and stuff that was going on, the the crack explosion and street crime and all this sort of stuff. And many of the records had some quite educational content, you might say, particularly the early 90s, the sort of golden years, the golden era. But then as the 90s progressed, you had characters like Puffy. I lay a lot of the blame at the door of Puffy for the materialization of hip
Oh,
hop
yeah.
culture and content.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the lyrics started talking about champagne, gold chains, bling, being up in the party, balling, flossing, all this absolute nonsense. And it just became very vacuous. But even that stuff was innocent by comparison to what came in the 2000s. So as the 2000s progressed, you had this awful bloody influx of auto-tune, which I absolutely loathe and despise with a passion. Can't stand to listen to it. It's the devil's own tool. And it's just everywhere. It's on every track. It got into reggae dancehall music as well. And it just makes the singers and rappers sound like robots or demons. And then the lyrical content changed and it just became totally pornographic. That's all you get now. You know, it's not even talking about toting guns and slinging crack. It's just straight pornography. It's being listened to by young people. You know, there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for pornography, but it's not on records that are going to be listened to by teenagers and
Right.
kids. And
Let me
that's where
read
we're
you.
at.
Let me read you some of these comments. People are like well into this, right? Dave said, be good little consumers. The messages are clear. Milford calls it corporate rap. Woken Flower refers to the Illuminati music industry. And even these days, people still struggle to believe that there is that these things are organized. It is not a coincidence when your favorite artist rocks up in 40 different poses, but all of them covering an eye. That's not a coincidence, is it, Mark?
No, that's all by design. And these are little calling cards to let people know that they're owned assets. And initially, it would have been people in the know, adepts, who were trained in occult symbology, who would have recognized these things. But these days, it's great to see that regular people are getting to know what these signs and symbols mean. So I'm even seeing chat threads on TikTok now among young people where the minute an artist covers an eye or does the 666 sign, I'm not going to do it here, because someone will freeze the frame
Mm-hmm.
and say, I
Mm-hmm.
told you Mark Devlin was Illuminati.
Absolutely.
So you can research the signs and symbols. But the minute an artist does that, thankfully, people now are all over it and they're like, Illuminati, yeah, he's owned, he's controlled.
People are
So
onto it. And
they
sometimes
are.
you can't help doing stuff like that, right? Sometimes you can't help doing stuff like that. But it's whether if you do it kind of like on repeat rotation. And the thing is, these artists all know what it's about. I mean, Beyonce's assistant went into court and said she was a witch, for goodness sake, and
Yeah.
talked about how extensively she was involved in like dark arts, right? Mark, I have to ask you this. I know the only reason I'm going to ask you this is you did make a comment about this on X the other day, but people are asking me in the comments, what does Mark think about Oasis?
Oh my days.
Well, yeah, go on.
The Oasis situation is a psyop, quite clearly. So I've commented on the group before about their heyday in the 90s. They were used as assets by the Blair regime, New Labour, as part of the Cool Britannia situation, which was, I don't know if we swear on this show, so I won't use
No.
the word, but
Yes.
a word beginning with B. Even George Michael in an interview was asked about Cool Britannia, and he said that was a load of that B word. So it was used to popularize Blair and present this idea that he'd presided over this rejuvenation of youth culture in Britain. So he was this dynamic, visionary young guy in touch with youth culture. And isn't it great? We got Britpop, we got Blur, Oasis, Pulp, Spice Girls, all these groups. And it's the best thing since the 60s. And that's because Tony Blair's brought this fresh new vision to Britain. So what I'm seeing now is a desperate, pathetic attempt by the Starmer regime, and isn't it a regime, to attempt the same thing. And I think it's mainly a diversion tactic. They're not trying to make Keir Starmer seem cool like they did with Tony Blair. That's an impossible task. But I think it's all about, hey, folks, look over here. Oasis are reforming. Oh my God. Look at this queue for tickets. It's amazing. Oh, just imagine these concerts that they're going to do. So people are looking over here at Oasis and it's turning them away from what's happening over here, which is the really important stuff, which is this country absolutely going down the toilet in any number of ways. But the chattering, seething masses would rather talk about Oasis, Coronation Street, and what they're having for dinner tonight than worry about all that stuff. So it's a standard tactic. It's been used many times before. Oasis are a very controlled band. They were from their very first days of signing with Creation Records under Alan McGee, who's a stated occultist. He's into the works of Aleister Crowley and such. So I've never trusted Oasis. We got mixed messages from the Gallaghers during the COVID situation.
Yes.
So one minute Noel's saying, I'm not wearing a mask, F that.
Yeah.
Then the next minute he's saying, oh yeah, I've taken the old arm spear, because my doctor told me to. So totally mixed messages. One minute they seem to be on our side. The next minute they're pushing establishment agendas. So how can you trust them?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and it is, isn't it? It's Cool Britannia 2.0. That's what it is. And that meme that you were sharing was absolutely brilliant, because I think that's absolutely what. And the furore this weekend when people couldn't get through to buy the tickets, and like people losing their heads online, getting really, really upset, a huge, massive distraction taking place. So, Mark, just do a roundup for me, and that is, the music industry, has it changed in terms of the potential levels of depravity that were in it, or are we just becoming more aware these days?
I think it's a bit of both, because they keep surprising me. I've been studying this stuff for years. It's my full-time job now.
Yeah, and that's why you're brilliant at it, mate.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's all I can do now. It's taken over my world. But they keep finding new ways of sinking even further into depravity, and they surprise me. So when I brought out my first Musical Truth book, 2016, I was like, oh, they're really dredging the bottom of the cesspit now in terms of what they're doing at live shows. We were seeing things like Miley Cyrus dressed up as a baby, simulating the M word, self-pleasure, you know, uh, absolutely sick. And I was thinking, how can they take things even further? But they found new ways, and they continue to, and they probably will continue to. But the flip side of that is that thankfully people are getting wise to it now. And young people, it's young people we've got to get through to. I do a lot of conferences and a lot of talks, and I look out there in the audience, and the demographic is primarily the 50 to 70 age group. These are people that already get it, they already know what's going on, and to a very large extent, it's preaching to the choir. We've got to find ways of reaching younger people and getting through to them. I could definitely do with some tips and pointers in how I can get my work out to this sort of demographic, but many of them are getting it. As I say, there are threads on TikTok where young people are demonstrating great knowledge of these agendas. They're spotting the signs and symbols. They're realizing that many of these large shows like the Grammys and the Super Bowl halftime and the MTV VMAs and even the Eurovision these days are mass occult rituals, energy harvesting, satanic rituals. That's literally what they are. And it's so blatant and so in your face that people are starting to notice. And I do wonder why the controllers are making it so blatant.
Right.
Because you'd think they'd want to fly under the radar for a bit. But if anything, they're stepping it up. Look at Sam Smith last year at the Brits. I mean, what the hell was that all about? So it's so obvious now. And it's either them being really arrogant and rubbing our faces in it and saying, look what we can do and get away with, and you lot can't do anything about it, or it smacks of desperation and them feeling that they're running out of time, they've got agendas to fulfill, and they're having to throw everything they've got at us, plus the kitchen sink, all at once. Hopefully it's the latter, because it would be great to think that they are panicking and feeling that they're running out of time. So either way, we just have to keep our efforts stepped up and get as much awareness of this out there as we can, because once you shine the light on all this evil and darkness, then it's got nowhere to go.
Hallelujah to that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mark. It's been greatly appreciated. And it's so brilliant in the comments. We've got parents saying, yep, I've told my 16-year-old, about this. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is each one teach one. I taught my daughter about the music Illuminati when she was young, because I wanted her to be absolutely aware that she should not just watch videos mindlessly. She should absolutely be aware that they are pumping all manner of messages at her through those videos. So listen, thank you so much. Murph says, thanks, Mark, for the insight into a world of music, which does not interest me in the slightest. You clearly know the subject matter intimately. He does. And that's what's absolutely brilliant about it. So thank you, Mark. We very much appreciate having you this morning, everybody. This is Mark Devlin. I will put links to Mark's work in the description at the end of the stream. Have a brilliant day, Mark. Take good care of yourself. Thank you. Yes, that was interesting. Woken Flower. Absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Take care. Thank you. And lovely people, I'm absolutely aware that you were asking various questions in the comments, but there was only so much that Mark had told me what he was interested in talking about, and I didn't want to bombard him. But perhaps what I can do is any outstanding comments that you have, I can compile them and put them to him. And take it from there. Yeah, we love Mark Devlin, says King. Cheers, Mark, says Mel. Present day Adele. Isn't the old Adele, says Kath. Kath is becoming obsessed with replacements, right? Yeah, Wesley's great, isn't he? And the thing is, just to be clear here, and that is, I love hip hop. I love original hip hop, the original stuff, right? But I absolutely loathe what it's turned to with like Megan Thee Stallion and, and Cardi B, and just it's horrible. And I should point out that Mark in 2013 he penned an updated version of Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," and it's actually brilliant. I'm just reading some of it now. You know the tune, right? To "We Didn't Start the Fire." So it goes. Let me find one of the particular lines that I like. Let me see. David Kelly, John Smith engineered heart attacks, aspartame in children's snacks. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. We didn't start the fire. No, we didn't light it, but we'll try to fight it. Adam Lanza, James Holmes, mind control, killer drones, Sandy Hook, Fukushima, Gulf of Mexico, initiation rituals, Dan Brown, misinfo, Masons, Church of Satan, Bohemian Grove, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Kanye West, down the drain, pyramids, ISIS, Nimrod. It goes on. Brilliant. Check it out on Mark's website. I'll put a link in the description so you can read it. Okay. Right, let us move on. And can I just say, because obviously last Monday, I was saying how much I love Notting Hill Carnival, and I do love Notting Hill Carnival. I do. What I don't love is seeing that 2 people lost their lives at Notting Hill Carnival last week. Absolutely horrific. My heart goes out to their families. This is awful, awful stuff. And obviously, I do not support that at all, not for 1 second. That is Cher Maximum and Mussy Imnetu. Died after being attacked in separate incidents over the bank holiday weekend. It is shocking. Anyone with any information, you need to contact the police. People have been arrested. But can I say, and this is really important, people leap on this, cancel Carnival, they say. Let us be real here. Are you aware that there are 41 stabbings in London every day? Every day. This has nothing to do with Carnival. This is to do with what's going on in our capital city. 41 knife crimes a day without a Carnival. Knife crimes are the problem, right? Carnival is fantastic, and I still absolutely support it. Happy people of all nationalities coming together. And I'm here to tell you that Carnival is not the problem and should not be shut down. There's a whole lot of bigots who are leaping up and down and saying, oh, look. But the fact is, knife crime offences in London, I was looking at it for the year 2023 to 2024, knife crime offences in London rose to 15,016. That's nothing to do with Carnival. That's to do with knife crime culture in London, and we need to tackle it. We need to tackle it. And the thing is, Notting Hill Carnival is in an area that the police need to do more work with the community. Most definitely they do, and in the right way, right? I'm not talking about dancing on the streets. I'm talking about pre-planning. Some people have suggested that Notting Hill Carnival should be moved to Hyde Park. Well, that's one possibility. But I think the whole demonization of Notting Hill Carnival is about the very rich people who live there. Let us go back to what I said at the start about Grenfell. That is the area where Notting Hill Carnival is. Traditionally, a primarily Black and Irish kind of enclave in West London, until the David Camerons, the Michael Goves and their lot started to take over, and they don't want Carnival there. And so they make out that these stabbings are all about Carnival. No, they're not. We have a knife culture in London, and that needs to be tackled. That is absolutely what needs to be tackled. And the thing is that the Metropolitan Police, which have been found to be institutionally racist, every year the Met Police releases crime statistics of the Notting Hill Carnival. And every year what we have are these kind of talking heads on Murdoch stations calling for closure. And a lot of these talking heads either live in the area or are related to the wealthy people who live in the area, and they don't want people partying on their doorstep. That's what's going on. Notting Hill Carnival has over 2 million people attending a year. Last year, there were 275 arrests. And Alice Vinton, an ex-cop, pointed out that at Leeds Festival, only 100,000 people attend a year. 78 arrests last year, including 4 women being seriously sexually assaulted. People want to demonize Notting Hill Carnival because they have their own agendas, and often it's racist. Yes, it is. And Notting Hill Carnival brings a lot to London. What we're hearing, 300 million pounds it brings to the London economy. That is from all of the floats, the people dressing up, all of the costumes, everything. So it's really easy for them to keep focusing their racism on Carnival. They just want rid of it because it's where rich people are now living, right? In the same way as really they wanted rid of Grenfell, right? They wanted rid of Grenfell. It was an eyesore. Same thing going on. So I will continue to defend Notting Hill Carnival because it is an incredible street celebration where people of all nationalities, races, religions, creeds all come together. And it is a British carnival. It is one of the most diverse celebrations we have. And it is the same old fools who bleat about it every year, right? I just see them as bigots. They don't apply the same rules to football matches or other large gatherings. No, really, they're just scared of seeing a lot of people come together, right? And yeah, something has to change. 100% it does. They need to do more stop and search. without a shadow of a doubt. And it is probably a bit problematic about the small area where it's held, because there's lots of side streets where people can run down, commit crime and run down. So these things are problematic. I don't deny any of that. What I'm saying is don't blame Notting Hill Carnival for something that is happening all year round in London. Excuse me, wiping my nose. I was reading what Leroy Logan, a former superintendent in the Metropolitan Police and a former chair of the Black Police Association, had to say. He said we need more proactive policing by each of the borough command units across London. It shouldn't be left to central operations to work solely with Carnival stakeholders. And he said, even as a police officer now in retirement, he attends Carnival with his family because I still identify with the Windrush story. Exactly. That's a huge part of Notting Hill Carnival. So that is what I want to say about that. The stabbings are not due to Carnival. The stabbings are due to a stabbing culture we have in London that needs to be sorted out. It needs to be sorted out. It really does. Right. What should we talk about next, darling people? Let me see what I've got on my huge list to talk to you about. What is going on in Brazil regarding Elon Musk? Because I saw Anonymous, didn't they used to be anti-establishment? And Anonymous tweeted 142,000 likes, tweeted Musk is the only person responsible for X being suspended in Brazil. Not the government, nor the judges are at fault. Elon Musk chose this path and it's 100% on him. And some of the comments included, Guy Azan said, as a Brazilian, that's 100% correct. Elon is an egocentric billionaire destroying Twitter. In this together, which is Ian Davis. I done an interview with Ian recently. So really interesting guy. I must bring him on the morning show. But I want to read his tweet. He said, Brazil's censorship of X is not good news. It hardly bodes well for the BRICS-led multipolar world order, does it? But nor is X a bastion of free speech. Musk is a billionaire US MIC defense contractor. Do you not find all this a bit suspicious? We'd be dumb not to, wouldn't we? We'd be dumb not to find it suspicious. It is suspicious. I mean, it is suspicious. I don't think there's any getting around it. What are your thoughts about what is going on regarding Musk and Brazil? Because he's using his platform to absolutely go after Brazil authorities. And can I say, several viewers contacted me since Friday's show and before Friday's show to tell me they couldn't make appointments to see their doctors. That didn't make sense to me. How can you not make appointments to see your doctors? And it's true. Good morning to you, Big Trev and Toby, said yes. And had exactly the same problems. And Trev actually had an experience where he said, also sent for my repeat for my painkillers 5 days ago, and normally the pharmacy texts me when it's ready, but still waiting. Luckily, I have some kept away for emergencies. Another thing was I had a hospital appointment yesterday, Saturday, for an ECG, and they rang me up to say I could go in at any time. That doesn't sound like waiting lists fit to burst. He said the place was deserted with about 5 cars in the car park, in and out in 10 minutes. That's mad. I think that's somewhere in Liverpool, right? I know you gave me the name of the hospital, Trevor. I haven't copied it over, but that's mad. And patients are actually being told around the UK that they can no longer visit or even phone their GP to book an appointment. And what they have to do is they have to book online. So surgeries are abandoning the traditional ways of getting in touch with the doctor, telling patients that they must go digital. That doesn't bode well, does it? And the thing is that again, that's the whole kind of digital currency arrogance, right? Is to assume that everybody is online. A lot of older people will not be going online to make an appointment to the doctors, right? But NHS England has actually warned GPs that they are contractually obliged to let patients make walk-in and phone bookings and could face action if they fail to do so. What on earth is going on? Have any of you had this experience where you can't make doctor's appointments, right? What have any of you? Oh, what's this? Debbie Evans on UK Column will tell you why. It's virtual hospital, aka your bed at home. Awful. Yeah, Milford, same with the police. If you phone them, they say go online, right? Woken Flower has not been to doctors for years. I treat myself and my kids. Healing the Silence says, imagine we have an initial appointment with AI bots in the future before seeing a human doctor. They need to get you online. Goodness me. One surgery did online, but it didn't work. So it's phone up now, says Mushroom. That is mad. London Lady, yes, you book a phone call online, but if you're over a certain age, you can still book walk-ins or phones. That is nuts. Debbie Evans is brilliant. Thank you, Marsh Girl, joining my Patreon. I appreciate that. What's this? Yes. Doctor says you have to turn up at 08:30 and join the queue. No phone appointment, says Mike J. What? What? Yes, I hear you, Lyra, talking about the sacrifices of Grenfell. I hear you, sister. Yeah, no, it's too much. It's absolutely too much. And maybe the problem with GPs is they keep getting rid of the good ones, right? I refer to Dr. Sam White. Hello to you out there, Sam. Sam contacted me early in 2020. He had heard my broadcast about C19 and he agreed with me. And he was standing up and being counted at his practice and being ostracized and alienated. Since then, he and a very select few doctors have stood to be counted, and they have paid a heavy price indeed for it. And I see that the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service have ruled on the hearing date, 27th of August, 2024, that Dr. Sam White, the outcome of this tribunal is that he is impaired. And the summary of the outcome is he will be erased from the register. A good, decent doctor who put people first is exactly the kind of doctors we need to keep. This is actually outrageous. This is the General Medical Council again. Absolutely outrageous. The amount of doctors they've gone after. So that's Sam White, Dr. David Cartland, Dr. Mohammed Adil. Trying to think of the other British doctors that they've gone after. But it's all around the world. It's happening all around the world. And Sam was one of the first doctors to stand up and be counted. Really sad. I find that really sad. And what on earth is happening, frankly? It just absolutely makes sense. Is there anybody in the comments that any doctors that you feel went above and beyond to try and protect people throughout C19? Let's give them a shout out. Let's give them a shout out. They deserve it. And can I just say, we've been talking quite a lot about fire today, including Grenfell, including that weird fireball thing that took place yesterday. Do you know it is actually today, September the 2nd, is actually the anniversary of the Great Fire of London. Now, Lyra, you're talking about interesting dates, right? I find that interesting. I find that interesting, right? I find that eerie. And Great Fire of London raged for 3 days from September the 2nd, 1666 to September the 5th, 1666. Started on Sunday, September the 2nd. We were told that the fire began accidentally in the house of the King's Baker in Pudding Lane near London Bridge. Now, any Brits will tell you that the Great Fire of London is a huge part of our history lessons in school. Massive. I remember doing it so clean. I even remember the pictures that we had to draw. I was at primary school, if I remember correctly. But I remember studying it. And some houses, I mean, it was mad. It was this, we were told about this sort of violent east wind that encouraged the flames, raged the whole of Monday, part of Tuesday. On Wednesday, the fire slackened again. On Thursday, it was extinguished. But on the evening of that day, the flames again burst forth at the Temple. The monument in the City of London is the monument to remember the Great Fire of London. And what was interesting is that the Great Plague preceded it. So the Great Plague of London of 1665 preceded it. And actually, they say that the Great Fire of London finally killed off the Great Plague. How interesting. I mean, the problem is we weren't there. And we've now seen how history has been recorded, right? And oftentimes it just ain't the truth, is it? So who knows if that's really what happened, right? Looking back, you have to wonder, was it an accident? Or was the aim part of the well-established pattern of allowing certain people, certain things to perish? Who knows? As I say, the Great Fire is commemorated by the monument, a column which was erected in the 1670s, and it was near the source of the blaze. I just found that date really interesting. I did. I can't help myself when I find those kind of dates really do interest me. Really do interest me. And by the way, yesterday, September the 1st, marked the anniversary in 1939 when the BBC shut down the service for the duration of war. It was taken off air completely. They said war was looking unavoidable. The BBC took steps to prepare for the conflict. And shortly after noon, the television service was shut down following the cartoon Mickey's Gala premiere. Interesting that Mickey Mouse was the last program before they shut down for the war. And obviously there was only 20,000 households in the UK had television sets at that time. Television started again on the 7th of June, 1946, with a brief opening ceremony and a repeat of the Mickey Mouse cartoon that preceded the close down. Interesting. And but BBC had managed to convince people to go over to radio, which had proved so successful during the war. But I reckon the BBC should consider shutting down again. I reckon they should. And I've just come back round to why I'm happy to be alive today, because the other thing that I've remembered about why I'm happy to be alive today, and that is advances in some medical care. I'm not necessarily talking about pills and that sort of stuff, but anything to do with kind of our bones and our limbs is absolutely genius in the NHS, whether that's hips or knees, absolute genius stuff. It is. I mean, there's nothing bad I can say about that stuff. Oh, Soul Sound just started raining there. Yeah. Sunflower. I know lots of people in the NHS who tell me they all knew the risk of the scam. Did they? Let me see. I've just vacuumed and mopped my entire 3-bedroom home listening to you and your wonderful guests with my headphones on. It was marvelous. Thanks, Annie. I love that. Multitasking. How wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, Kath, close it down for good. They are good at operations, Milford. They blooming well are, right? No doubt about it. And I high praise indeed for that. Posing down here all morning. Is it, Shug? You're in Scotland, right? Synchronicity might be the answer. Did you do that show you said about advising how to get out a paying TV license, Emma? Go online and very straightforward, opt out, right? You just have to tick all the boxes. No, I don't watch BBC. No, I don't watch live shows. Tick them, opt out, right? Here we go again. Because Emma, I'm not quite sure what more to add, but you definitely should cancel. I mean, definitely cancel. Who should be having a TV license these days? Who needs one, right? Yeah, Lyra, trust it. Doctors have really taken a knock after 2020. Good doctors, yeah. Dr. Anne McCluskey, right? Is that right? In Ireland, great lady. Humphrey, who's removing your live comments? And did I see somebody earlier say that their comments about UK column were being removed? You know that's not us, guys. There's no way any of us are doing that. I support UK column round here. What's going on with Marsh Girl? Is she okay? The first great insurance scam, Charles II, was up to his eyes in debt. A few guineas in the royal coffers, says Paul. Forget everything you were ever taught. Our history is his story, not ours, says Mel. And that is the problem. I can't even believe huge things like the Great Fire of London or the Great Plague, because then I look at the dates and I see in the Great Fire of London 666, right? Who's AWA? It's just another tax. Oh, Mushroom has seen disappearing messages. Are we being censored in real time, people? Is that what's happening? Guys are the 2020s equivalent of the 1980s estate agents. I hear you. They disappeared. What? That's not right. Right, before I come to our final thing, let me just double check. Everything has been covered, because I would be mad at myself. Sometimes I come off here and I'm like, I didn't do that story. I was supposed to do that story. Oh no, there was a read. Hey, here we go. Oh, yes. Chris, good morning to you, Chris. Hi, Sonia. I've been following you for quite a while now. Fantastic show. Varied subjects and brilliant guests. Best show on the internet. We love you already, Chris. On Friday, you covered the possible UK smoking ban by 2-tier Kia. I don't believe this has anything to do with smoking. The reason for the ban, which will eventually include all nicotine products, including patches, is because of the health benefits of nicotine and prevention of colds, certain colds and flus. I can hear you now. Nicotine is bad, bad, bad. This is what the world has been told for years, but it doesn't mean it's true. And actually, Chris sent me a rather brilliant video, a 22-minute video, which he said comes from a 3-hour interview. The person being interviewed is Dr. Brian Ardis. He's been very vocal on certain things over the last 4 years, and his information has been corroborated by other doctors and scientists. And it is a brilliant video. And it talks about how nicotine can take care of many diseases and sicknesses, and the difference, and this is the important thing, the difference between nicotine and tobacco. Because we know in that tobacco is all of the chemicals. We know that. I'm not here advocating you all suddenly start smoking, but I completely agree with Chris that we should see it, that anything that this government does for us is never for the good of our health. And so we should start off from that point, and that is why. What could be the possible reason that they are talking about this ban? And by the way, they've been pushing this whole smoking in public ban over the weekend, so I'm almost certain that they're probably going to do it. Probably going to do it. But I take Chris's point. I do. And he says, P.S. feel free to not agree with my opinion, because that's what free speech is all about. Chris, absolutely. And we allow for all that around here. Different voices, different ideas, because it's only by listening to people that you can actually find a way forward. And the only people that I wouldn't invite on here are known liars. I'm not going to invite known liars on here, right? People I've already done due diligence about, and I know that they're lying. I'm not going to invite them on. But anybody else, different political opinion, different ideologies, whatever, different goals, they are welcome on. But Chris, thank you for that, right? Thank you for that. I really appreciate you sending that. And I was looking, by the way, because obviously Keir Starmer was making a whole big thing about how many people are dying and ill from smoking related diseases. But when you start to look at the estimated cost to the NHS via taxation, right? And there's an interesting chart. And so the smoking cost, as one example, to the NHS, it's a quarter of what is paid in tax duties. Whereas obesity costs to the NHS, the sugar tax far outweighs what is actually paid, right, in terms of tax. And alcohol, same thing, a percentage like this, for want of a better description, but four times the amount is brought in taxes compared to what is spent in hospital. So they can't keep telling this lie, but obesity is an issue. We got to be real about that. Obesity is an issue. And actually, what people are telling me, doctors, medics, is the number one problem is processed foods. That's the real number one problem that people are dealing with. And that is the problems with cancers and various other things that are taking place. And they don't want to tackle that, though, do they? They don't want to tackle the big food giants. And I mean, it's only in recent years that some shops have stopped putting sweets and high-fat produce by the tills. They used to do that to force the parents to give in to pester power by their children. Some shops still do it. They still do it. Still have all around the tills, all the sweets and chocolates. So, yeah. Interesting. Thank you for that, Chris. I happen to agree with you. I was looking, I actually did mention that briefly on front, because that's new on me. That's new to me, because I have grown up with the belief that it's bad, bad, bad. But actually, what's really going on there? What's going on there? I think it's safe to say, right? Annie says, Sonia, please tell your listeners to ensure that live chat is on. Top chat doesn't show all comments. Got you, Annie. Oh, what's that? Live chat. All messages are visible. Even I only had top chat on. Look at that. It's not the cough that carries you off. It's the coffin that carries you off in, says George. Hear you, George. Hear you loud and clear. Yes, Sam, smoking ban is going to close more pubs. And you know what happens in pubs? People like us get together and we plot dissent. That is not appreciated by this totalitarian government. Did you read this comment, says Soul Sound? All that fluff and stuff. Sonia, a packet of smokes costs $70 here in Australia. Shut up. $70? You've got to be kidding me. See, whatever the cost, it is far, the cost of the taxation for these products, smoking products, far outweighs what is being spent in hospitals, right? Processed foods, pesticides in food is a big killer. Also, drinking water is a problem. I mean, cryptosporidium is like the least of your problems through drinking water from the tap. What's that? What's going on? Top chat hides many comments. Always change to new first. Daddy, I didn't know this. Brett loves smoking his pipe occasionally, right? Cat, I can't get my head around that. One of our Australian viewers, please tell me, no way can a pack of cigs be $70. What is 70? Mind you, what is tobacco in Australia is beyond it in price. Short order cook. What? Yes, Woken Flower. I will talk about facial recognition database. Would you like me to do it on Friday? Let me make a note of that. Let me make a note right now while you're on air. Facial recognition database. Facial recognition. Right, down. The aim of any ban on smoking is to stop people puffing the herb in public. Also, attack on young people. How dare they? Lemsip said most of the pubs near me became effectively restaurants, except that dining is an option and you pay before you eat. When you order two, actually became restaurants. Yes, Shug, the forever chemicals in everything, which I believe is the real problem. I think that is the problem. And the thing is, £35, £36, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They're telling me that a packet of cigarettes in Australia costs us the equivalent of £35 to £36. What? That's insane. I cannot get my head around this. Now, what was I just looking at? Yeah, Shug, that is the real issue. Right there, the forever chemicals. And the name is on the tin, forever chemicals. I cannot stress enough, do everything you humanly can. One thing I do, first of all, is I leave fruit to soak in a pot when I first get it. I just leave it to soak. And then I peel a lot of it, obviously. Wade, that is absolutely insane. Wade, who we know, is our Australian on the case. Loved your video, Wade. Loved it. Says, yes, smokes are expensive in Australia. That is absolutely insane. Can't get my head around that. That's just nuts. Good Lord. London lady asked where Craig Campbell is this morning. He's on his holes. He's in Spain. Yeah, I would not be able to. Sail away. Good question. What is the average income in Australia? I would not be able to afford to smoke these days. Good job I gave up. Blimmin' heck. I used to love those, what were they called? Dunhill International. They were the expensive ones, made me feel all posh. Send you an email. Please explore the trans madness. Oh, yeah, no, the thing is, I'm going to be interviewing lovely, what's her name? Jennifer, isn't it Jennifer? But I won't be able to do it on here, on YouTube. I won't be able to do it on YouTube. I've actually, in 2018, I began filming a trans documentary with over 40, I interviewed over 40 people, including Posey Parker, Simon Fanshawe, Graham Linehan, Venice Allen, Julie Bindor, so many people, Lord Lewis Mooney, MP David Davis, all of them feature in the documentary. Over the years, cancer rates have risen, not lessened. Yeah, good point, Lyra. Good point. Sonia, can you get Kelly J. Keane on? She is fabulous. Yes, here we go again. Yes, so Posey is in my trans doc. It is. Mushroom has just seen a message disappear. This is insane. Oh, Sean, you got it. Please talk about the state of the truth movement capitulation since the start of the scumdemic. I mean, I will. Let me get better prepared. Yes, lovely James. Interview James as well. James is lovely. Love James. Yes, please, Soul Sound. If you have a story or suggestion for a guest, then send an email. Sonia can invite who she wants. It doesn't mean they will come. Then that is the reality. By the way, I should say that almost everybody who is suggested, I invite on. Because if I can see a good reason for inviting them, and one of our, or two of our, or three of our glorious viewers have suggested it, I invite them on. But yeah, not everybody says yes. And for various reasons. Jennifer Bilek, that's it. That's some bad hat, Harry. Yes, I'm going to interview Jennifer, and we're going to have to do it on X and Rumble, because that is a woman who has followed the money. She absolutely knows that it's a top-down process and not a grassroots process, and she's brilliant. What's this, Emma? I once spoke to a registrar at an NHS hospital who gives private lectures on the benefits of low-carb diet for diabetes. However, he was not allowed to tell the NHS patients they can reverse symptoms. This is the problem. This is like all mad groupthink, isn't it? Right, let us come on to our final item of the day. You've been a beautiful audience as ever, of course, and I love you very, very much. And this is in response to an email from Paula. She says, "Dear Sonia, I have heard you say you are right where you are supposed to be. Can you talk more about that, please? I want to believe the Paula, I'm not laughing at your predicament. It's just the way that you've worded it. She says, I want to believe the same thing, but it's hard to when I hate my job and I'm on the verge of leaving my partner of 10 years. Please give me some of your spiritual vibes, Sonia. They are desperately needed. Lots of love, Paula." Well, I love this. I do love this. Thank you for asking me, Paula. This is about my spiritual journey. And some people feel really yucky when you talk about spirituality. They think it's all woo-woo, but I know it's not. And I want to address that, Paula. My spiritual journey started very, very young. I was born into a spiritual family. My mum was a medium. I grew up around seance tables, and my understanding was that everybody did. I literally thought everybody did what the Poultons did, right? I was 18 when I discovered that not everybody was talking to spirits. 18. Can you imagine that? But I learned from a very young age that there is another world out there. I get glimpses of it and I hear it. I hear voices talking to me. Some people want to turn that around, make out you're mad, but actually I would go further. And I would say that if you're hearing voices, the likelihood is that you are in tune. That's what I would say. You know, the thing about my spiritual journey was I realized a long time ago that in order to be on your spiritual journey, stop labeling things as good or bad. I started to see beyond superficial labeling of what situations brought me and what could I learn from it? Where could it take me to? Was this about my higher calling? But because I was already born into that household, it was a lot easier for me than it is for other people. We don't all start off at the same point in the same way as a Kardashian who's, made millions says, look what I did off my own bat. No, you didn't. You started off from a family that was very wealthy and very rich and famous. And same with me. I didn't, none of those things, but I started off from a family that was very spiritual. It was easy for me. It's second nature to me. Absolutely. And, but I've come to understand really that even when times are difficult, painful, confusing, seemingly unfair or unjust, there is often a message in it for me. And that will enable me to go to the next level. And I do believe that even when times are difficult, there is something for me to learn in that. And it is part of my path. And that is why I say I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I'm not saying people caught up in heinous crimes or genocide are right where they are supposed to be. I don't know that. But all I can do is speak from my own experience. This acceptance of being where I'm supposed to be came through my spiritual journey, my childhood. And as I say, which began very young. So some people, they have a spiritual awakening. It scares the life out of them because suddenly they start to see the world in a different way. So what is the meaning of a spiritual awakening? Well, when we undergo a spiritual awakening, we literally wake up from this kind of dreamlike reality of a life that is ego-centered. When you're spiritual, you're kind of removed from that same ego. It doesn't work in the same way. It's different. And so when something happens to me, I don't automatically go, oh my God, I'm a victim in this. Why did this happen to me? I go, why has this happened? What is it trying to tell me? So the thing about a spiritual awakening is you end up questioning your old way of being. And often it's your old way of being that triggers the spiritual awakening in the first place, because the first stage is often a deep unhappiness with the world. So Paula, might I suggest you are perfectly placed for that spiritual journey, because if you're miserable in your job and you're miserable with your partner, you have a deep unhappiness with the world and your place in it. And it's time to change that. Yeah, it is. And the thing is, as a result of that first stage, some people feel so alienated, they feel suffocated with loneliness. Some people develop health issues, depression, OCD, anxiety, and some of it can last for many years. And what the awakening leads to is what's commonly known as the dark night of the soul. And I don't know if any of you have been through the dark night of the soul, but let me tell you, it is not fun. It is not fun. It sounds very romantic and poetic, doesn't it? But it can be an utterly miserable experience that can involve all of those things I've just talked about: depression, OCD, etc. And it's really interesting because obviously when the Matrix first came out and we saw Neo being offered the red and blue pill, that's kind of like, do you want that spiritual awakening, or do you want to just remain in the here and now? Now, I often say, along with saying, you know, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I often say I'm in the world but not of it, because I don't feel worldly. And I don't, by that I don't mean I'm naive, not at all, but I try not to adhere too strongly to the worldly pulls. And I try and follow my own path, and I'm able to follow my own path because I've been taught from a very young age how to do that. But if you haven't, it's going to be harder, but it can be done. Thank you, MK. A cuppa for me. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Brett says, I see no ships, only hardships. Oh, bless you. Yes, new beginnings, Paula, have no fear. What is truth vibration? It's just new age word salad. I don't know what that is, Sean, what you're talking about there. All I know is, because I never subscribe to any of that stuff. I never do any of that stuff. I just follow my natural path, and that is to be in touch with who I am quite naturally. And I can see, you know, like the higher calling of my life, not just to earn money, to keep a roof over our head, and to buy food for sustenance and clean water or any of those things. But I see a purpose to my life. I do. I see a purpose to my life. And that doesn't come through any of that new age stuff. For sure, it doesn't. So what can activate that kind of spiritual awakening? Well, being utterly bloody miserable, Paula, frankly, being miserable. Yes, it can. And it can happen at any moment. You can get spontaneous triggers that can trigger major life changes. A word somebody says can change your life, can put you onto a different path, can make you realize that you've been only half living, right? And honestly, the thing is, the dark night of the soul, which is, oh, is that what you're talking about? Perhaps about the kind of new agey stuff. Yeah, it's just a very useful expression, but that can really impact highly sensitive people. And a lot of people who experience spiritual awakening are highly sensitive and deep thinkers by nature as well. And for me, as I say, the dark night was an abyss. I mean, I had what appeared to be something of a breakdown, and it was just hard. It was just really, really, really hard. And because that's the other thing, is that a spiritual journey is not linear. It doesn't just keep going straight forward. You can go backwards and forwards all the time, depending on what you're going through in your life. And sometimes you have to top up, because the more aware you become of what the world is trying to do to disconnect you from your source, right? It can throw you momentarily. It can plunge you back into addictions, to alcoholism, to anything that has been a prop for you. But don't despair. Do not despair. All of that is part of your journey. It is. But the thing is, in order to be able to like fully immerse yourself into being a more spiritual being, you simply have to strip away the old. You have to. And that does mean sometimes suffering through your experience. Okay. And let me give you some of the signs that you may be like on the verge of your own spiritual awakening. And I think a lot of you will relate to this. Okay. You've lost interest in most things. You feel deep tiredness in your bones, right? And you feel lost. You don't know which direction is right. You feel isolated from everything, which includes people in your life, your work. I think, Paula, this is what you're going through. And you ponder the deep questions of life. What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? That kind of stuff. And this one I think is interesting, is you feel like you don't belong on this planet. That is me through and through. I think my life is what is that saying? And that is, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And the thing is that once you've gone through that, and gone through it to such a degree, your life won't look the same as it used to. It won't. It simply won't. And as I say, I have different periods. Like C19 bumped me up to another level, right? Because I think I'd got into a stage of, where you're just like a little bit comfortable and everything's just jogging along okay and everything's fine and everything. But C19 really made me stop and pause and say, okay, some things have to change. This has to change. I cannot continue this way. And it did change me. And so you're going to go through different stages, Paula. You'll have unhappiness. You'll feel lost. And stage 2 will be a shift in perspective, right? And you start to perceive reality in a totally different way. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And stage 3 is when you start to seek answers and meaning. Start to seek answers and meaning. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Ask the questions that they tried to dumb out of us at school. And stage 4 is where you find answers and you start to experience the breakthroughs. And I love the breakthroughs. And the thing is what will happen is as you become more spiritually aware, you'll start to meet teachers along the way. I've met people who've been able to guide me onto the next stage. And the odd thing is when you've gone through all that, you are then likely to hit a wall, it's possible, and feel lost again. You might have a sense of disillusionment, but that's just you being bumped up to another level. Because life is about movement and flow and vibrations, right? There is an ebb and flow to the spiritual process. So, Paula, the reason I say I'm right where I used to be is because I'm able to now look at things as a big picture, whatever it is, even if, and as I say, I'm not talking about those extreme events like genocide and everything. I can't say that. All I know is according to my own life, and even the things that have hurt me, I can see a purpose for them in terms of a higher order to my life. And as you start to work through that and you start to become more awake, you'll be able to start to do that kind of deep inner work that needs to take place. Because, we were talking about generational curses last week, and they get handed down from generation to generation. That's not light and fluffy. That's very real. It's measurable. Psychologists can measure that, right? And the great thing is that if you do all of that work and shadow work, right? I wrote a manuscript that I've never ever published, and it was called the shadow side, scaling the shadow side. And it was about, and I actually wrote it when I was actually going through a kind of spiritual crisis. And it was about all of the things about looking at life in a different way. So when A happens to you, look at it as B. And that isn't avoiding reality. That is being able to look at things as a bigger picture so that you can progress. And some of the last stages are like when you get this integration of it all coming together. And I love those moments. I have those moments, like, and it can happen anytime. Happened the other day. I was just watching the sunset outside, and I just had this, like, my heart filled up. I had this giant sense of well-being about how good everything is, even stuff that irritates me, even people that I have to deal with. It's 11:11, and I know that means stuff to people. Even people who I cannot stand, that I have to deal with on a regular basis. I even see a purpose for them these days. Yeah, I see a purpose for them, right? And that's a wonderful feeling. And what it is really is you're dealing with an energetic shift. And it's an energetic shift in your awareness of the world and your place in it. And as I say, it is absolutely, do not despair. It is absolutely common to go backwards and forwards, as you kind of integrate it into your lives. What are you saying, people? 11:11, says Tamsin. They're all at it. Meaning creates a purpose, and it's why it's so easy to remain within the pain, because we think it's the end, but really the pain is where we find the meaning. Light can only be seen in the darkness. Indeed it can. Heal in the silence. It's 12:11 here, lol, says the Blue Nomad. Blue Nomad, where are you? You're an hour ahead. 11:11 crew, make some noise, says Sasha. Sasha, you've got your whistleblowing event this week, haven't you? Put some details in the comment. Best time to write about it is when you're in it. Once the healing and change takes place, so does the horrible memories associated with it. Yeah. What's this? What else is going on? Oh, I've precognition predicting many things to hubby that come true. He says he's married to a Pleiadian. A 7 is my favorite number. Yes, I hear that. 11:11 is the number I started seeing back in 2016 when my spiritual journey began. And the brightest treasure is found in the darkest cave. Isn't that beautiful? Synchronized soul. I love that. Oh, Sean. I hear that it takes on average about a decade to rid oneself of a toxic truther, egregore. That's a new word. What is that? That is born of fear and ego. Is that a combination of the two? I love learning. What's that? Yeah, it can take a long time. Yeah, Sasha's got a Saturday and Sunday Whistleblowers United that everyone can watch virtually. Will it be available on the line? So we can actually give that a little plug on Friday with details of that, can't we? Mark Devlin is our guest on Sunday. Mark is fabulous. Mark is absolutely fabulous. We don't mention that deranged cop around here, fact checker. He's a lunatic, absolute lunatic, a deeply unwell man who goes around calling innocent people like me a child trafficker, apparently involved in adrenochrome. How disgusting is that? What a pitiful individual. Right. What MK Ultra has reclaimed 369 and made them with love. Oh, beyond belief. Egregores are thought forms. I've just learned a new word. I love that. Thank you for teaching me that. Thank you. Oh, there is a wonderful world ahead, a paradise earth where we will dwell in true peace and security. We love the sound of that. So there we are, Paula. It's not straightforward, right? But to be happy where you are, it can be a lot of pain, and it can hurt and can cause you all manner of headaches, and you can go into solitude. But ultimately, it's an amazing thing. It's absolutely an amazing thing when you get that level of awareness. You know where you are, and things just can't faze you in the same way. No, Captain Flint, we are not going to have a 12 o'clock finish, but thank you to the 2,646 people who have been on the live stream today. I very much appreciate that. Sophie, I'm going to find out more about this word. This is new to me. I love it. I love new words. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you to my marvelous guests, wonderful Sandi Adams and Mark Devlin. And no matter, I set myself, I say, right, I'm going to finish at 10:30, 11:15 at the latest, and it's already 11:15. I'm hopeless, right? Hopeless in all the right ways. So obviously got to finish on a quote. Just first of all, say thank you to you all. Thank you to you all for being here today, for leaving comments later on, for contributing in all manner of ways, whether that is suggesting guests or donating or buying me a coffee or helping out in any way whatsoever. Thank you to my two fabulous mods out there. We love them very, very much. And Paula, good luck with your spiritual journey, lass. It's all going to be all right. You will work out what to do, by the way. You might decide to stay and you might decide to go on both of them, the job and the partner. But the point is it will be down to you, right? What I would do at this stage is just sit and just allow yourself a moment in time, because I bet your head is going crazy right now about what you should or shouldn't do. Right. Of course, we are going to finish on a quote, because that's what we do around here, right? And it is, actually, I've got two quotes. I can't resist them. One is from Swami Vivekananda, and that is, you have to grow from the inside out. No one can teach you. None can make you spiritual. There is no other teacher but your own soul. I love that. And the other one is, and this is about following your spiritual journey, and this is from Howard Thurman, and he said, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that. How beautiful is that? Go and do it, people. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you so much for being here and just bring in the vibes. Love you so much. Teresa and Wade and Julie and Healing the Silence and Hugh Gardam. Hugh is just going to finish on a smoke. Good man. And could even be a woman. And B and all of you, and Kat and Vanessa and Armand and Cavan and Short Order Cook and See How We're Living and Sally and The Incompletist. You're welcome, love. Mushroom feels good and ready for the week ahead. We love that. Thank you, Annie and Humphrey and MK Ultra and Mr. Mensa and George Benson and Mike J. And yes, we love our mods. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all so much. And Sasha and Julie C and Merv and on and on. You are incredible people. Thank you, Captain Flint. Take good care of yourself. See you Monday. No, see you Friday. Take care. Have a brilliant week. Lots of love to you.